Chapter 2, Lesson 3, is all about writing your own two-step equations. So in the previous lesson, we talked about solving them. Now it's going to give you some word problems or a sentence, and you have to translate that into an equation and then solve it. So as we work through these next few examples, you need to be paying attention to some key words. So if I tell you that is always means equals, that would be something that you might want to put in your notes. That way you can refer back to it often. So I think now that we're going along, some of you may be slacking in your notes. So I just want to get you back on track because this is one, these notes you will need often and refer to them often. All right. So let's look at number 1 here. 8 less than. This less than does not mean a less than sign. Does not mean a less than sign. So if you're talking about something less than, you are talking about subtraction. So that's something that you need to have in your notes. 8 less than 3 times the number. Now, just because it's written in this order, 8 less than, doesn't mean that it's 8 minus, right? You do have to read it, think about it, and think about actually what it's saying. So whenever you read something like this, just like when you solve an equation and I tell you let your mind go right towards the variable, here's the key word you need to let your mind go right to every time. A number. And that's usually how they say it. A number, a value, a quantity, something like that. So look and see what's being done to this number. It says 3 times a number. How do you write 3 times a number in algebra? You don't even put the dot. You don't put an X. It's just you put the number right next to it. So 3 times a number. We've got that. So now we go back to the beginning where it says 8 less than this. Well, if that's this part, we want 8 less than that. Is. Again, that's another one you need to know. Is means equals. So 3 times a number, we've got 8 less than that equals negative 23. And then you just solve it. Add 8, so 3n is equal to negative 15. Divide by 3. Divide by 3. N is equal to negative 5. All right, so again, just because it's written in this order does not mean it translates into an equation in that order. So you do have to think about what it's saying and about what it means. So, second one here. It says 13 is. So 13 is. That means 13 equals. 13 is. Now, here's the part. 7 more than 1/5 of a number. So again, find the number and see what is closest to that. It says 1/5 of the number. Well, 1/5, here's another key word right here. Of means multiply. So of means multiply. So 1/5 of the number means 1/5 times the number. And again, we just write it right next to each other. So 13 is 7 more than this. So if it's 7 more than this, then we need to add 7. More than, that's your addition. That's another key word. More than is an addition. So that's my equation. I would subtract 7. Subtract 7. I end up with 6 equals 1/5 n. So to undo this fraction right here, I need to multiply by its reciprocal, which will be 5 over 1. Multiply by its reciprocal, which is 5 over 1. Make that a fraction. Answer, 30. Okay, I need you to pause it and try A, B, and C. And then we will come back and talk about the equations. Not necessarily the answers, but I at least want you to make sure you have the equation with you. Okay, so it does not say to solve it. It just says, what is the equation? All right? So even right here, I didn't have to solve these, but I went ahead and did it anyway just for practice. So on A, it says 15 equals 3 more than 6 times the number. That's 15 equals, 15 is 3 more than 6 times the number. So again, go right to the number. 6 times the number is 6n. 3 more than that, plus 3. 10 increased. Increased is another addition word. 10 increased by the quotient of a number, and 6 is 5. Now, this is longer, but we still got it. is 5. That part you should be able to get. Equals 5. 10 increased by, so that means you're starting with 10 and you're increasing it, which means you're adding. 10 increased by the quotient of a number in 6. Now, when you're talking about quotient, that's a division word. So quotient, so you're dividing a number in 6. Whichever one is said first goes first. A number divided by 6. That is a quotient of a number in 6. C, the difference between, subtraction, the difference between 12 and 2/3 of a number. So again, let your mind go here. The difference of 12 and 2/3 of a number. So again, just like in division, whichever one is said first goes first. All right? So if we're talking about difference of this and this, that would mean 12 is said first, 12 goes first. The difference is subtraction. 2/3 of a number. Remember, of means multiply. So 2/3 of the number. 12 minus 2/3 in is 18 equals 18. Those are the equations. And again, they're not asking you to solve them right now. They just want to know, can you do it? All right. So with that being said, let's move on. All right, example 3. They give you an entire word problem. You buy 3 books that each cost the same amount. This is the key to this problem, the fact that they cost the same amount. That means that you can represent it with a letter such as B for books, and that would represent every book because they're all the same. You bought 3 of them. That means you bought 3 Bs, 3B, and a magazine, all for $55.99. You know that the magazine costs $1.99. So you bought 3 books in a magazine. It tells you right here that the magazine cost $1.99. And it says you bought it all for $55.99. So 3 times the cost of each book plus $1.99 should give you your $55.99. That's your total. And it wants to know how much does each book cost. So it's asking you to find B. So just with our algebra, we know that we've got 3B plus 199 equals $55.99. So since this is a positive and add 199, we need to subtract from both sides. That cancels out, leaving us 3B equals 54. Divide both sides by 3. So that will cancel, leaving just a B. 54 divided by 3 is 18. So each book costs $18. Again, if you're not good with word problems, maybe you just don't like them. Maybe reading's not your strong subject. You have to be able to at least pick out the numbers, see what number that represents, and probably the first thing's going to be, what's my variable and what is it standing for? So if we can get the variable, usually we can get it going from there. So, example 4, a personal trainer buys a weight bench for $500 and W weights. So you don't know how many weights, he just bought some, for $24.99 each. So again, you don't know how many weights he bought. That's the W part. But you do know how many ever weights he bought. They do cost $24.99 each. So if you take how much each one costs and multiply it with how many weights there are, you should get the total amount for the weights. Now, he also paid $500 for a weight bench. That's just standard. So this is how much he spent on weights. And he bought $500 worth of a weight bench. And you know that the total purchase, $849.86. You should be able to solve from there. Subtract 500. Again, it doesn't matter if the 500's here or over here. I've got it written the other way, and that's just fine. So subtract 500 from each. You get $24.99 W equals $349.86. Divide both sides by $24.99. Again, because that is what is connected to the letter. We've got to get W by itself. So if you divide this on a calculator, this divided by this, W is 14. Now what does that mean? W is 14. W stands for the weight, so that means 14 weights were bought. All right, let's try D. Pause it and try D. It says the current temperature is 54 degrees. It's expected to rise 2.5 degrees each hour. How many hours will the temperature be? So again, what are you being asked to find? You're being asked to find the number of hours. So if you're being asked to find the number of hours, that's your variable. Let's just say h. And you know it's going to rise 2.5 degrees for every hour. So no matter what this is, you're going to take 2.5 times the number of hours. All right? It's already starting at 54. So it's not going to start at 0. So you're already starting at 54. So you're saying 54 plus the amount it rises, which is 2.5 degrees per hour. It wants to know how many hours will it take for that to be 84. So if you subtract 54 from both sides and then divide by 2.5h, you will get that it takes 12 hours. All right, I realize again that for some of you these word problems and get things all where they're supposed to be can be a bit tricky. But I just ask that you persevere through this and see what happens. And there we go. I'm telling you, this board hates me. Maybe this used to be a reading teacher's board or a social studies teacher's board, and maybe they just hate math. That's not us. We love math. Love it. I don't know. That word voice is a little creepy, isn't it? All right, let's just go right to guided practice here. 1 more than 3 times a number is 7. Let's just do these together. 1 more than 3 times a number. More than, plus. 3 times a number. Again, we're looking for the number. So if we're talking about 3 times a number, there you go. We want 1 more than that. Plus 1 is 7 equals 7. 7 less than 1/4 of a number. Here's our number. We've got 1/4 of. Remember, of is times. So 1/4 of our number. And it says 7 less than this. So if we start with this, we want 7 less than that. And that is -1. Last one of that kind. The quotient of a number and 5. Again, when you're talking about subtraction and division, whichever one is said first goes first. So this one's said first, so it would be n divided by 5. And again, in algebra, we don't hardly ever use the division symbol like this. If you want division, it's always expressed kind of like a fraction. So a number divided by 5, so that's the quotient of a number and 5, less 10. So that means it's this less 10. Less is subtraction. So this less 10 is 3. There's our equation. Okay, so let's go ahead and try number 4. This will be our last one. Number 4, you already owe $4.32. So that's there from the get-go, $4.32 in overdue rental fees. And are returning a movie that is 4 days late. Now you owe $6.48. Define the variable. So what are you looking for? You're looking for the amount you're late per day. Okay? So you already owe this, and now you're 4 days late. 4 days late. 4 days late, and now your total is $6.48. So if we can subtract $4.32 from both sides, and that cancels. We've got 4D. Just bringing it up here so we got room to write. 4D is equal to 2.16. Divide by 4. Divide by 4. 2.16. Divide by 4. Goes in there 5 times. 20. 16. 4. So it's 54 cents per day. That's the daily fine for a movie. All right. Again, I know you may struggle with this. Good luck. Persevere. And as always, ask a question if you need to.